What's good, Emo? Welcome to the channel. So, if you're new to this channel, pretty much this is a musician's channel, but with a little bit of like fitness and lifestyle stuff thrown in there. And essentially, I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about wisdom and how you need to have it in order to be successful. So I had a conversation recently with some older gentlemen, and it was funny because we were talking about people working out incorrectly or like misusing equipment and machines and stuff like that. And we were making jokes and stuff. And it got to a point where I've started to realize I have more wisdom than the men I'm talking to, even though they may be 20, maybe 30 years or 25 years older than me. Now, some of you may have cringed when you heard that. It's because you are ignorant. And the reason why I'm saying you're ignorant is because you don't know why I'm saying this, right? So we started talking about people using equipment incorrectly, right? And one of the, I guess you could say, hallmark examples I use of people misusing equipment in the gym is when I see people using the assisted pull-up machine as a leg press. Now, I mentioned that to these men as a joke. Like, haha, that's crazy that I see people doing that. They need to not do that. And one of the men said, well, I've gone to a bigger gym than the one we were in, meaning a more popular chain, and I see people doing that a lot. To which I said, so? They shouldn't do that. It's incorrect. And so I had to drill into the point to a man older than me that though they feel like they are getting some kind of stimulation from using the assisted pull-up machine as a leg press, there is a proper way to do it. And then we got into the conversation about training people and how to correct people's forms and things like that, to which I then got to thinking, well, if you would want correction and criticism on how to, perform your exercises in a better way, you as an older gentleman should have looked at that example I gave as a prime example of when to do that. Not to essentially say that it happens commonly. There should have been a kind of an agreement with me bringing it up that it should not be done. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I mentioned it and his response was that I see it a lot in the bigger gyms, it was to kind of say that, well, it must be useful somehow. And the problem that I have with that is there's a lack of wisdom there. Something being useful a little bit doesn't mean it's the option you need to choose, okay? So I'll give you an example. I was a young man once before, if you want to believe me. And when I was in school, kids would bring guns to school. Kids would bring drugs to school. Kids would bring stupid stuff to school. Stuff that clearly you shouldn't bring to school, right? Now, as common as it happened, you shouldn't do it. So what then I ran into as a child or as a young boy was the option to do the correct thing, which is to not use the guns and drugs in school and focus on, my own journey and getting the good grades and the good teachers' good graces and things like that. So this is where I always go to as an example. Whenever I find myself in conversations with people older than me, I kind of self-check my own wisdom in the conversation. Do I know whether or not the conversation I'm having is about doing the right thing or the righteous thing based on what we know to be the right thing? Or am I having a conversation with somebody who has been comfortable for longer than I've been alive? And that's one of those things that I'm learning, and I started learning this when I was in my 20s, but I'm learning that this is one of the things you have to navigate as an individual. Because you could have, let's say, this person I was talking to in the gym was a stranger, but this could have been like your father, this could have been your uncle, your grandfather, where you realize they've been kind of skating and they don't really understand it. Now, I'm saying this not to speak about the gentleman I was talking to, but it was to speak to their urgency for the conversation and where the urgency was placed. So the urgency for people working out correctly was from a good place, but it was misplaced in that when something was incorrect, it was okay because it was common. And in our example, it was seeing a lot of people misuse the assisted pull-up machine. So it just got my mind thinking on a greater sense about why these older men would ever feel that way about someone doing something so incorrectly, but yet want and crave and desire for criticism and structure within the world they live within, meaning the gym we're at right now, right? You don't like people using machines incorrectly. You want more people to correct the usage of the machine. But because it's so common that people misuse the machines, you will let it slide, or you're okay with them continuing to be a part of that group, which is not wise because of what you asked for. Now, if these men were just making fun of people doing the wrong stuff, like, haha, that's crazy stuff we saw, no one really cares, right? But we were actually having a conversation about a solution, an action, something that we could do. So there's almost no argument you can make for doing anything incorrectly. There's no argument you could ever do for allowing somebody to do something incorrectly. There's no argument for it. And if you can come up with one, then you will be arguing for what they're doing to actually be correct. I don't know where the lapse is in, whether it's age, whether it's experience. I don't know where people's gap between learning that and applying it in real life happens, but I'm assuming that it's because a lot of people, when they're going through their day-to-day, they're not challenged. They're not really put in a position to challenge their principles, challenge their beliefs. Like, for example, I'm Black in the United States. Pretty much that alone, we got all these different ideas, stigmas, and stereotypes that pretty much I have to challenge. If you see Black guy, hoodie, beard, long hair, hat, you would assume writing that on paper, there's a bunch of different stereotypes that come with that. So I have to challenge that. And I think most people haven't been put in the position to challenge that, or been forced to challenge that. So something like, simply, like if you're at the gym and you want to get big muscles, right? Simply put, you can just go into the gym and lift weights and just eat protein. But there's a little bit of things that are in there in that process that you need to master. And the only way you can master them is either through experience or having somebody with more wisdom than you explaining it to you. So that could be something as simple as like consistency, discipline, education, trying to actually surpass your previous goals and not fall into some comfortable maintenance stage in your fitness journey, which you see a lot of people doing. And so this is something I've learned to analyze now, and I'm noticing that it's not necessarily an age thing. That's why I'm trying to figure out where the gap is. I see people that are my age that are lazy and don't want to think, and like how I'm having this conversation with just a camera, there's a lot of ums and uhs and stuttering, and they can't really get out a complete sentence. You ask them a question, they have to get you to repeat it before they can start to begin thinking about the answer. It's a fact. So those people, though they have this lack of wisdom and ability to communicate for themselves and actually present the thing that they wish to see in the world, they can do it. They can survive in the world and not have to be put into some kind of standard. So as you get older, as you get more comfortable, as you make more money, as you get more friends and more happiness, will you take a step back, or will you try to improve what the fuck you're doing every day? Because it seems like most people get to a point to where they're going to do as much work as they need to do. They're not going to try to, at least when it comes to the gym, they're not going to analyze their workouts. Like, you're not going to record yourself working out to see if you got good form. You're not going to try and invest in a coach. You're not buying a food scale to see if you're really eating as much food as you need to eat. You're not taking your annual physicals. You don't know your blood work. You don't know your cholesterol and all these things, and you're just getting older and older and older. These are conversations, shoot, even my mother reminds me of constantly. Like, you need to be on top of these things. So for people who are either older than me, have more money than me, or maybe have more experience, it doesn't really make sense why there is a lack of urgency in gaining wisdom at that point. It frustrates me because I'm at the age where people kind of look at me as, I'm 32, but they look at me as kind of like I'm like the full grown adult in the room, right? I'm the guy who should be in control of everything. And with that understood, I'm typically walking in the room trying to either be the smartest in the room or near or aligned with the smartest and most powerful in the room. That's got nothing to do with some kind of nefarious task or anything, but it's got more so to do with understanding where my position is in the world. Because, like, if I walk into a room full of, let's say, a bunch of bodybuilders, and they're all like ripped and yoked, and I'm in, like, for me, this is like my 6th or 7th year of my fitness journey, and I'm like barely reaching the body I want to look like. I can't do as much weight on the bench press. I can't do as many pull-ups as these bodybuilders I'm in the room with. The first thing I'm gonna fucking do, the very first thing I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna start getting to know people. I'm gonna start understanding who they are, why they're doing it, because the guy who's doing the most work in the room may not be the smartest. Okay, so he could just be outworking everybody in the room. You need to figure that out. And me saying that right there is wisdom that I had to figure out as a young boy. Like, you have to walk into a room or a classroom full of other children and students and figure out which kid's the smartest, which kid's gonna flunk out. Is this kid gonna cheat off my test? Is that girl gonna actually like hide her test from me if I try to cheat? Will this kid, tell on me or something? Like, you got to figure all that shit out. And for most of you watching this, and maybe a lot of the people I may be talking about, you didn't have to figure that out. Like, the girl who, told on you in school, or maybe cheated on you in high school or college, you just kind of just rolled off of you. You never really addressed how to get through that. And so things like that will kind of exponentially grow in your life. Like, that's just how you handle issues. Like, for me, fitness was a problem that was affecting me, so I had to take control of it. I couldn't hire a coach and then just let him do the work. I had to hire a coach and then provide a whole bunch of value and information and data so that we can make the proper choices. This is what I mean by having wisdom. I had to know that. I had to have it ready. I had to be the one to do it. And to see older gentlemen just kind of like coast, it's weird. It's just strange. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, all right, I'll give you a better example and we'll wrap it up after this. Basically, when I was like maybe a teen, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, the way I imagined getting older was leveling up. I never looked at getting older as some kind of like arc that goes up and then down. Like, you have a peak and then you just go down. I would visualize aging and learning and wisdom and growth as just up and to the left. You just gradually go up and to the left. So as you get older, you should get smarter. You should learn more things. You should be involved in more things. And if not more things, you should just be getting better at what you do. So if you're like 50 years old and you're hitting the gym every day and you're not actually tracking anything, like it's just a part of your day, in my opinion, you're comfortable. Like, you're doing better than most, but you're still comfortable. Like, you're chilling, you're relaxed, you're playing around, you're not serious. Like, that's how I feel about that. I know you may disagree. This may be a new version of yourself where this is something new for you. But if it's something where you're not actually going up into the left, by next year you're still doing the same thing. If I can go back to last year, you're just doing the same thing but faster. You're playing. You're not serious. And that bleeds into everything. Like, I see people, we talk about money and stuff. People my age, we all talk about getting jobs and getting to the bag and stuff like that. And the conversation never really changes. Like, you can see from my social media to this YouTube channel to all the complaints you've ever seen me make, which is probably only like about music industry stuff. I don't make life complaints, right? You will notice the conversation shifts every year, if not every couple of months. And the reason for that is because usually, even like with this conversation, you probably won't see this happen again until I actually present some kind of different perspective on it. But even conversations like this present to you the wisdom I've learned from past experiences, because I know for a fact that those men were comfortable because of how they presented the information. They presented the information as if they were just presenting it. They didn't present it as if they were trying to inform, educate, and things like that. And again, this just comes from me personally seeing people who are older than me as higher on this imaginary wisdom chart I have in my head, right? And so this is where I challenge a lot of the viewers here. If you're getting older, if you're in 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, do you feel comfortable? And if you do feel comfortable, is it something you're willing to die on today? Because I'm not that comfortable, but I'm also younger than you. So there's things that I wish to do that I have to work to get. Whereas people, I would assume, as they're older and aging, would either have gotten to the things they wanted to do in life or haven't gotten to them yet because, just circumstances in life in general. But there are things that you crave to continue doing simply because your heart is beating. Or are you done? You're just chilling. You're just playing. Like you get up, you just do what we say you're supposed to do. Like you get up in the morning, you eat your breakfast, you clean your butt, and you go eat food, and you work your job, and you go back home and you go to sleep. Is that literally all you want to do? Or is there something that you think you're gaining each day from living? Gaining, not experiencing. Gaining. We can experience life every day. There's people who wake up homeless and they just sit on a stump and just don't do anything. They experience everything, the bad weather, the good weather, the sunshine, and the wind. But they don't gain anything from it other than past time. So let me know what you think. This is just a quick conversation. It was just a weird situation in my head where I was like, I don't know why this guy's defending using the assisted pull-up machine as a leg press, like at all. There should be zero resistance in this part. But I think because comfort, ease, and of course the ease of understanding misinformation, it's a lot more comfortable to just say, yeah, I seen somebody doing that before, so I guess it works, versus actually figuring out whether or not that fucking works. And if it does fucking work, is there a proper way to do it? Because we've been doing things a certain way for a reason. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. Simply because these are older men. Like if this was a 20-year-old, girl talking about, I just want a bigger butt, and I don't know why someone told me to go to the assisted pull-up machine to do a leg press, but I just want a bigger butt and I'm gonna do it. Fine. You're dumb, and you're dumb and young. Who cares, right? We always give you that excuse. But you're old and wise. You should know better.